Hello, my sexy men, sexy women, and sexy people of all genders. I'm Lauren Shippen, professional writer who definitely was one of those people wearing vests in like 2011 when everybody was wearing vests in 2011 and drawing fan art of people in vests.
I was wearing vests in 2011, Lauren. We have so much in common. Hi, I'm Cherokee, McAnelly, vest wearer, head of entertainment at Tumblr, who participates in the Tumblr Sexy Man polls, even though I don't know who half of them are.
And this is Dashboard Diaries, a podcast for you, the folks who are in this internet bunker with us. We talk about what's going on our favorite hell site, get into what we like to call tumble lore, do fandom deep dives, and share the times when we've gone feral over a new ship. So Cherokee, how has your last week on Tumblr been?
My last week on Tumblr has been great. I don't think you would be surprised by the fact that The Last of Us continues to, take over my dashboard, my heart, my mind, my soul, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and was also seeing some good Teen Wolf the movie content. It's number one this week because it just came out on the 26th of January. And we did an answer time with the cast of the film with Tyler Posey, Holland Roden, and Shelley Hennig, and had them actually pick fan questions to ask each other. And it was so cute and funny. So excited to see Teen Wolf the movie back. Excited to see Teen Wolf back on the charts again.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice.
How about you, Lauren? How's your week been?
It's been good. It's definitely been a lot of The Last of Us. We're recording this on Thursday, February 2nd, and the most recent episode of The Last of Us was this past Sunday, and it made everybody collectively lose their minds. And I'm going to be talking more about it in Feel's Corner for sure. No surprises there.
Let's reserve 10 minutes of the episode for that,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's really what's been dominating my Tumblr dash, as well as our main topic today, which we'll get to, which is, I've been seeing a lot of Cecil Palmer, which if you don't know who he is, we're going to get into it in a little bit. But first, Cherokee, did you watch any Supernatural this week?
I did indeed, Lauren. I watched season 1, episode 12. Faith is the name of the episode. And I watched this episode and I didn't write a lot of notes because I was so engrossed in it because it was a really sweet and tender episode. So there's not a lot of jokes that I have for this one. But so the plot of the episode is essentially Sam and Dean at the beginning run into a house because they hear some kids screaming or something, and Dean gets electrocuted and his heart is gonna he has a heart attack and is told that he has weeks to live. And so Sam finds out about a faith healer and takes Dean to the faith healer, and Dean is healed. But right at the moment that Dean is healed, someone dies of a heart attack, in the vicinity. So they find out that there's actually a Reaper, and, every time someone is healed, someone else has to die. And it was a really cute episode because there's a woman in the episode who kind of has a flirtation with Dean, who has a brain tumor. And obviously she's trying to get healed and, isn't able to because they kind of solve the riddle. They, get rid of the Reaper by the end of the episode. But it was very sweet because they have this sweet moment and she's like, you know what? I actually am okay. And it was really heartwarming. That's so really nice. Yeah, the only jokes I wrote were from the very beginning of the episode where I said, Dean's first almost death by electrocution, nor. And then I wrote, cue the electric slide.
Yeah, wait, you have to start your Dean death count.
Dean death count. Counter. I'm giving this a 0.5 Dean death. 0.5, because it would have been a Dean death. But someone else died for Dean. So yeah, this was a really sweet episode. I can't wait. But I think feels like the plot is starting. This is really where it's picking up. The larger story is coming together.
I was going to say, you are now halfway through the first season, pretty much exactly. Do you feel like you are invested in the story now? You understand how this show sucked so many people in from the very beginning?
100%. I'm very attached to Sam and Dean, and I know who they are now.
Yes!
12 episodes in, baby!
Daddy Dean!
But yeah, no, I think I'm very, very excited to get to kind of the meat of it because I know that it really starts with that monster of the week. And yeah, it just seems to it's venturing more into the main story. And I am probably going to start watching more than one episode a week because I'm getting really excited. I know. And because I just can't, Castiel arrives in season 3, is it? So right?
Beginning of season 4.
Oh,
the
gosh.
first episode of season
The
4.
waiting.
I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I
I'm
know.
gonna have to speed
I
it up.
know.
I'm just like, because I know like who comes in and I'm really excited about it. I'm like, when are these people coming? But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun.
You'll get there. On top of Supernatural, we are spending like a lot of this episode sort of lingering back in the 2000s and early 2010s because of our main topic. But first, we have to go back into our own past for our dashboard confessionals, where we go into our Tumblr archives and pick a post from around this day in a previous year. Cherokee, what do you have from the archives this week?
So I selected 2 posts this week. The first one is from late January 2015, which is the year I graduated from college in 2015. So I got my senior photos and made myself a little meme. So it's a senior photo of me, and it says, "Someone please tell me what a 401k is."
This is so good. I love this.
So, yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And you know what? I still don't really understand what a 401k is. I don't have one because I don't have a traditional employer.
I have one because my mom told me I had to.
There you go.
And then my other post is just such a moment in time from 2015.
Such a moment in time.
It is a gif of Beyonce doing the single ladies dance between 2 left sharks. If you recall.
If you know, you know, the left shark viral moment.
Oh, God. How could we forget?
Gosh, I'd forgotten about left shark.
What a beautiful moment on the internet.
Truly simpler times. You know, there are certain things that I feel like I romanticize about the internet of yore, and left shark is probably one of them.
So pure. Did we ever find out who Left Shark was?
I feel like we did. I feel like somebody tracked down the left shark identity. I can't remember, but I do feel like I do remember that sort of being part of the discourse.
Of the left shark discourse.
the left shark discourse.
What about you, Lauren? What do you have today?
So I've got 2 posts as well, one from 2017 and one from 2018. Wait, is that how that works? No, one from 2016 and one from 2018. I was doing the math. And these are just from February, just in general. I didn't get the exact day, but I did pick these out because 2 years apart, I just happened to, in February, reblog 2 posts that are like very related to each other. So 7 years ago, I reblogged a post from Snore Laxatives.
What
really
a URL.
Handle. That's just, no offense, but the whole Kiss and Kate Barlow and I Can Fix That Sam storyline from Holes is quite frankly one of the most gripping and tragic in the history of cinema, and I'm still not recovered from it. And then 2 years later, I reblogged a post from Drake's side hoe, but like hoe spelled Heaux. The only man I've ever loved is the guy in Holes who would always say, "I can fix that." And I just like, I think that's just like a great example of like the enduring legacy of Holes, and specifically this side plot in Holes with Dule Hill and Patricia Arquette, I believe it is. And it's, if you've never seen Holes, it's a classic based off a wonderful, wonderful book. And there's just this side plot of this romance, but tragic romance between these 2 people. And it truly is like one of the most romantic plot lines and most tragic plot lines in any movie ever. And I love that Holes just stays with me through the years, you know?
Oh, gosh. It's so funny you say that, Lauren, because I feel exactly the same way. I literally 2 days ago was talking about Madame Zeroni to someone.
Oh, amazing. And that's Eartha Kitt, too.
Oh, my.
Playing Madame Zeroni, which is so wild.
Okay, Lauren, I don't know why there are so many tiny little parallels happening right now, but earlier I was speaking to someone and we were talking about The Emperor's New Groove, and she told me that Eartha Kitt is Yzma in The Emperor's New Groove, which I just found out. Big Eartha Kitt Discovery Day. What an icon.
Incredible.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what a
Holy
woman.
moly.
I mean, the versatility there is just incredible. All right, we've got a lot more nostalgic fandom coming up, but first, a quick ad break. This week in Tumblr vibes, add some vanilla extract. Now, add a little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah, just go ahead and dump the entire bottle in. Perfect. Now your entire house smells like vanilla. Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. Life can be overwhelming, and sometimes looking at colorful gift sets on my dash isn't enough to soothe my mind. That's when I turned to BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with access to a huge network of therapists, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. You can be matched with a therapist in 48 hours. And if your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch therapists anytime at no extra charge. And then you can start working on you from your space, on your time, through your preferred medium, whether that's a phone call, video chat, or sending your therapist a message. Dashboard Diaries listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/shoelaces. That's betterhelp.com/shoelaces. All right, Cherokee, I want to start our main topic with a game. And this game is going to be match the Tumblr sexy man to his origin media.
Wow.
So,
all right, let's do it.
We're going to get into what a Tumblr sexy man is actually, because that as a term and as a topic has really had a resurgence on Tumblr in the last couple of weeks. But first, Cherokee, where is the Onceler from?
The Lorax.
Correct. How about Sans?
Comic?
No, not Comic Sans.
I would consider Comic Sans the Tumblr sexy man of fonts.
Of fonts? Yeah. No, I think actually that is incredibly accurate. But no, this is a different Sans. Do you know where he's from?
I do not.
From Undertale.
Which I'm not super familiar with, so that would make
cool
sense. I do know
we're going to talk about
Sans means without in French.
It does. Yeah, which is why sans serif. I mean, was why in fonts, because it's without the serif.
It's all coming together.
There you go. It's all coming together. How about Bill Cipher?
Gravity Falls.
Yes. And Cecil Palmer.
Welcome to Night Vale.
Yes. 3 out of 4. That's pretty good.
Oh, I will admit I only found out about Cecil Palmer in the past week because there has been a lot of discourse. So
there has been so much Cecil Palmer posting, and I want to hear about, your perspective of seeing it all happen on Tumblr in the last week. But first, I just want to say that I was right. I made a prediction literally 1 month ago that a fandom from like 2011 to 2014 would make a comeback. I think I said Homestuck and Undertale were like the contenders. And the past week, we saw Undertale and Welcome to Night Vale make a huge comeback. I am currently, 1 for 1 in terms of my predictions, and I'm so smug about this. This is like the biggest thing I've accomplished all year so far, and I'm really pleased with it.
Very impressive prediction, though. What inspired your prediction?
I think really my prediction was inspired by the fact that Tumblr really has had this like renaissance in the last year, both because of just like everything that you guys have been doing that's been so fun and chaotic. And then also I think the fact that there's been this exodus from Twitter and from a couple of other places, and Tumblr's kind of become like a more appealing place to a lot of people who are looking for places on the internet to express passion and joy. And so I sort of figured like, okay, with Tumblr being what it is, which is that like it's a social media platform that sort of has its own fandom and lore for itself, like I think that we are going to sort of like revisit some of these things, right? And yeah, I did not expect it to be the Tumblr sexy man. And I want to talk a little bit about like where this all began. But first, Cherokee, what was your first encounter with the Tumblr sexy man as a concept?
My first encounter with the Tumblr sexy man as a concept was definitely when I first started working at Tumblr in 2014. Peak sexy man era.
Peak.
And it was during Super Hulock era, so obviously Benedict Cumberbatch was the moment, the man, the myth, the moment, and that was my introduction to Tumblr sexy man. And I think like what a perfect way to enter into the sexy space,
Truly. I mean, 2014 Super Hulock is really a moment in time.
What about you, Lauren? Where did your sexy man saga start?
I mean, I think it was around the same time. I actually did a little bit of, digging online to try and find out like where the term sexy man came from, like as one word. And according to Google Trends, it was first used in the summer of 2004. And like specifically in Kentucky, like I didn't realize that Google Trends did stuff regionally.
Did not know that.
But like I couldn't find the origin point. I have a feeling it probably has to do with like, dating ads or something like that, like something completely unrelated to fandom, right? So it's very unclear exactly when the term like sexy man as one word, because it is one word, we should say, originated. But it really got a hold on Tumblr starting in 2011. It was interesting because actually like its usage on Tumblr and with Tumblr basically, according to Google Trends, can be traced back to when Tumblr started. So it's like, I don't know what the first post was. I couldn't find what the first post that like sort of put like Tumblr sexy man as a, phrase together. But the height was really 2011 to 2014. And the reason that we're talking about it this week specifically is because it has had this resurgence that, as far as I can tell, and please correct me if you've seen something different, there's been this sexy man of the day account on Twitter that's been like running these like bracket polls for a while, kind of like we did with our Phantom Gauntlet to find the ultimate Tumblr sexy man. And now that Tumblr has introduced polls, of course, organically, like that was like after the bug race, the second thing that Tumblr set off to do.
On the first day, Tumblr invented the bug race. And on the second day, Tumblr pulled its sexy men.
That's so perfect. Yes. And it came to the conclusion, Tumblr came to the conclusion that Cecil Palmer from Welcome to Night Vale is the ultimate sexy man. And the last two were Cecil versus Sans from Undertale. So those two fandoms have had this huge resurgence. And that was actually another thing that I saw on Tumblr in the last week was there was one day where like, because Panic at the Disco is breaking up or ending and like My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy are releasing new music. It was like those three things were trending. Undertale was trending. Welcome to Night Vale was trending. And everybody was like, what year is it? Supernatural was trending because, oh my God, we haven't even talked about the Winchesters yet. I think we'll have to save that.
A whole other episode, maybe.
A whole other episode. But yeah, what was your like experience in the past week with Tumblr sexy man? Like when did you start to see it on your end, like taking hold of the trending topics?
Probably, well, I think it was like a week ago, maybe. Like, so we're recording this on February 2nd, so like late January. And it got to the point where like we even, I don't know if you get our trending emails, but we sent out a congratulatory email to Cecil. Well, to our users, congratulating Cecil for winning the Tumblr Sexy Man poll or bracket contest. And so it's been like...
I did see this, yes.
And it has continued, like, Cecil and Gravity Falls not Gravity Falls, Cecil and Welcome to Night Vale are just continuing to trend. And it's always just interesting to see when these things happen. A few years ago, this happened with Twilight, where just suddenly everyone was talking about Twilight, like the Twilight Renaissance.
Because of the snail effervescent post that like changed the timeline.
It's oh my God, I love the butterfly effect of Tumblr posts.
Truly. Unmatched.
Yeah. What about you? How have you been like engaging with the Tumblr sexy man? I don't know, event Renaissance. Yeah, in the past week. Like, have you been posting about it at all on your private Tumblr? Have you been like participating?
I haven't been posting about all of it at all yet. But I did see somebody screenshotted a tweet from Newt Shuttlecotty, who was our guest in our podcast episode, tweeting about Cecil Baldwin, who plays Cecil Palmer in Welcome to Night Vale, sort of, congratulating him, and Cecil responded. And it's so funny because it's funny seeing those things, right? Because obviously we know Newt, but also I know Cecil, and I know Joseph and Jeffrey, who created Night Vale, and I know Dylan Marin, who plays Cecil's husband and is in a lot of fan art and stuff. And so it's so funny because my personal relationship to specifically Cecil Palmer has changed so much in the last it's been now 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I first got on to Welcome to Night Vale at the end of 2013, beginning of 2014, when it was really having its first big moment on Tumblr. And I remember seeing all of the fan art of Cecil and like, you know, seeing all the stuff with Carlos, his eventual husband in the show. I mean, spoilers, but, you know, there's like hundreds of episodes of Welcome to Night Vale. Like, you know, it's been around for a while. And sort of seeing that whole romance play out. And then I started making podcasts myself. And now like those people are my friends. And so it's like, it's such an interesting thing to see from both outside and inside the community. And I think that that's the thing that's been like really nice from my end has been seeing this resurgence of Cecil fan art and like Cecil and Carlos fan art. And I think that like this is what's interesting to me about sort of the Tumblr sexy man, which is to, I guess, provide like more of a definition to it. Cherokee, how would you describe what makes a Tumblr sexy man a Tumblr sexy man?
Tall, dapper, morally ambiguous dude.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's a really, really good description. You know, I've seen some other people being like, it's usually like a skinny cis white guy in a vest, like dapper.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah, some sort of like moral ambiguity or evil. Like of the list that we talked about earlier, the Onceler and Bill Cipher are both the villains of the things that they're in. I don't know about Sans. But even Cecil, like, you know, he's the hero of Welcome to Night Vale, but he's sort of, you know, he's an odd person, right? And he's got like a quirk to him. And I do think that to me, so much of what defines the Tumblr sexy man is specifically like the relation to the fan art. And I think it's because like when I think of Tumblr sexy man, I do think of like these characters, right?
Yeah.
Cecil and Bill Cipher and Sans and the Onceler. And they're all either animated characters or non-human characters. Yeah. Or characters that don't have any canonical appearance, like Cecil, because he's from a podcast. And so I think that that's something that's been really nice to see is this resurgence of this particular type of fan art, especially because, you know, selfishly, like I also work in fiction podcasting and also have a lot of characters who don't have canonical appearances.
Yeah.
For some of my shows, I do commission art for canonical appearances, but it's just so fun to see people interpret a character's appearance based off their voice. Yeah. And especially for Cecil, like that was sort of the start of a particular kind of like weird, quirky aesthetic where he often has a third eye on his forehead. Purple's a big thing because of the purple art of Welcome to Night Vale. Sometimes he has like tentacles or like weird appendages and things like that because it's a, you know, strange show. And I don't know, there's something about the particular hive mind of Tumblr, like the hive mind that created Goncharov, that like makes fan art a particularly interesting thing on its own.
Yeah, and I do love, I think the Tumblr sexy man, I don't know, genre or, you know, space is really unique and interesting in terms of fan art because I have never seen so much cross-title fan art as I have with Tumblr sexy man fan art, where it's just like a crowd of Tumblr sexy men or like as someone makes fan art of like all their favorites. And I also am, it's really interesting to me that the Tumblr sexy man has kind of morphed into like this, you know, Sherlock kind of, or like Loki. Would you consider Loki? I'm never like, I'm always like, is it a sexy man or is it a poor little, or is it a poor little meow meow? It's such a hard, and even on
it's such a hard thing.
Even on the Know Your Meme page for sexy man, when you scroll down, poor little meow meow is part of the sexy man Know Your Meme page because they're so like, they're like two sides of the same coin for sure. But I think it's really interesting that it like the sexy man kind of started as being like a vibe. Like it's not a look. It's based entirely on vibes, and sometimes the look aligns, but most times it doesn't. Like if that look that we described earlier was so important, then you know I don't think Cecil would have won. Like I think you know like it would be based purely on appearance. So I really like how like sexy man is. Yes, like there's maybe some appearance implied, but it really is just kind of like a like kind of like their aura.
It's a yeah. Well, and I do think that like I think you're absolutely right, and I think that the reason that people often associate the Tumblr sexy man with the sort of like skinny cis white guy wearing like a hat and a vest is because like this really started in 2011 when that was kind of like the thing that fandom was obsessed with because of Tom Hiddleston and Benedict Cumberbatch and like all of these guys who were actors and who, you know, maybe gave off that particular vibe. And I think that like what's been wonderful about portrayals of Cecil through the years is that we know literally nothing about his performance. People sometimes use Cecil Baldwin, the actor's appearance, to sort of like riff off that. But for the most part, they just like do whatever they want. And the only thing we know about his husband, Carlos, is that he has beautiful hair. He's Carlos, the scientist with beautiful hair. And it's like, great, you can take that in any direction.
I love that.
And I think that to me, there's something about the Tumblr sexy man that is so tied into canonical appearance and canonical humanness. Like, I do think that Loki in 2014 was a Tumblr sexy man, whereas now Loki of 2023 with like the Loki TV show and everything behind him, I think is a poor little meow meow.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think it's because he's become more human, whereas like a lot of the Tumblr sexy men are like either like animated characters or inhuman in some way. Like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared also kind of like had a and that's like a puppet show. Like, you know, Bill Cipher is obviously a huge one. He's a triangle and a top hat. Like that's literally what he is. I don't know how else to describe him. And so I do think that like, I think the biggest thing for me and the biggest question that I have with Tumblr sexy man is it serious or is it a joke or is it both? And what did it start as?
Wow. Big question.
Big question.
I think the answer is it's definitely both. It's definitely serious and a joke, as honestly so much on Tumblr is. Like,
True.
You think someone being like, my small bean cinnamon roll, you know, like, it's that's obviously a joke, but it's also this person cares about this fandom and this character, and that's how they're talking about and engaging with their fandom that they care about, which isn't, you know, serious per se, but it's something that they are serious about. And so I think, it's really interesting to see all of these kinds of terms pop up, because I think it's like, according to my research on Know Your Meme and just, you know, existence in the Tumblr sphere for however many years, 12. Actually, I think it's 11. It's 11. Anyway, but it's interesting to see that I think like Tumblr sexy man spawned so many other terms like small bean and cinnamon roll and poor little meow meow, which like I like the, you know, this Tumblr sexy man to poor little meow meow pipeline. And I also pitch for one of your next Venn diagrams, Lauren.
Oh,
Tumblr sexy man, small bean, cinnamon roll, poor little meow meow.
Poor little meow meow. Yeah. I think there's a couple of other. I feel like there's a couple of other categories too that I'm like forgetting. So listeners, please send us those dashboarddiaries.tumblr.com. Drop in our ask box and tell us what else should be on sort of this like alignment chart Venn diagram of poor little meow meow Tumblr sexy man dichotomy.
Oh my gosh.
But you're right. I think you're right. It is both. And I think like I think what's so interesting to me about so much of Tumblr and like where Tumblr sits now and the way that my version of Tumblr, right? Because I mean, one of the things that I really, really love about Tumblr as a platform is the fact that like you do create your own ecosystem, and then you are in a version of Tumblr that is yours, but then you still get these like kind of monolithic moments. But in my version of Tumblr and in my relationship with Tumblr, it does feel like we are as a hive mind aging up with like the actual stages of life that we're at. Like, I think back in, you know, the early 2010s when all this stuff was starting and when, like, Onceler fandom, which we're definitely going to do its own episode for once we find somebody who was in that fandom, because I don't think either of us were.
I do love like, Dr. Seuss, but...
Well, there you go. Onceler fandom was, like, very legitimate. Like, people were, like, obsessed with the Onceler. Like, they really loved him. There was a lot of Oncest fanfic, which is a whole thing we'll get into when we talk about the Onceler. Whereas now, like, the Onceler's, like, the fandom's a little bit of a joke. But I think that the trajectory has been, like, 2010 to 2015-ish is, like, the earnest adolescent teen years when it's like you are just like unabashedly in love and like just enthusiastic about everything. You know, you're making DashCon, right? Like it's just that blind enthusiasm. And then I think from 2015 to like 2020, we went through our like ironic teen, like phase of oh my God, I was so cringy a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like that's, can you imagine that we did that stuff? And now we're in like the other side of that, which is my favorite stage, which is the like, oh, we can look back on all of this stuff with a lot of love and affection, and like, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a joke now, but not in a mean way. Like it's there's a real affection. Yeah. And like, and also we can enjoy things unironically and fully. And I don't know, like maybe that's just because I am in my 30s now and still on Tumblr. But it does feel like as a whole that has happened on Tumblr.
I feel exactly the same. I think I absolutely have seen the exact kind of transition that you're talking about. I really, in the way that people have been posting and engaging with each other and like re-engaging with what they loved so much, kind of, tapping back into that excitement and, just pure like love and passion for a fandom, which, we called cringe because like, it's like when you're a teenager and it's uncool to care, Yes.
Yeah.
And then you realize like, oh my gosh, it's actually very cool to be passionate about something and to have interests, and like cool is relative. But yeah, I think I like the we are cringe, but we are free. I think that is just the
Exactly.
Should be the new
like
Tumblr
if you think
motto.
the Once is hot, that's awesome.
Great.
Like enjoy thinking the Once is hot. Good
Happy
for you,
Yeah. Hope you're having fun.
And then that doesn't have to be like embarrassing anymore, but also I think even people who were in that fandom, ideally, or who still think the Once is hot, like hopefully they can still also participate in like, isn't this all silly? And it's like I am a fan of Cecil from Welcome to Night Vale, and it's like, and I love that there's all this passion around him, and also it's like the idea of putting a poll together for Tumblr sexyman is just like inherently kind of goofy in a great way. So I've had a great time with the Tumblr sexyman resurgence.
Me too, and it happened so fast, Lauren. I went to check when the Tumblr sexyman Tumblr was launched, and it was January 25th. So in 1 week, Lauren, our lives changed.
That is so amazing.
It's like I want to, the that meme where it's like the guy with the dominoes that increase in size.
Yes.
I feel like it's like Tumblr launches polls, and then like Cecil Palmer becomes #1 trending topic in 2023.
Yes. Or like, and I think it could even go beyond that. Like the thing that's got me really selfishly excited about all of this is that like I initially, not to make this all about me and my career, but like I initially found like a listenership for my first podcast on Tumblr because like that's how I found Welcome to Night Vale. That's how I participated in the audio drama fandom. I mean, we talked about that with Newt, and like it was so wonderful to get to interact with people on there around audio drama. And like everything else, like fandoms sort of ebb and flow and whatnot. But as somebody who's in audio drama professionally and also still a huge fan of shows like Welcome to Night Vale, there's like a selfish pleasure that I'm getting out of the idea that Welcome to Night Vale could have another major like influx of fans. Like that just makes me so happy because it's still running. I love everybody who makes that show so much. They're such wonderful people. And like, I don't know, it's just nice to think about like more of my Tumblr family becoming more of my fandom and work family, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's been, who knows like how it'll sort of radiate outwards in terms of like actual impact on like Welcome to Night Vale's listeners, right? Like that could have a real effect on like people's livelihoods, which is so cool. And like that's the power of fandom and the power of Tumblr, and I'm just feeling very like warm and fuzzy inside.
I mean, I'm right there with you, Lauren. Like every time I start talking about Tumblr, I just get like, totally like heart eyes, warm and fuzzy. I am completely unabashedly earnest about Tumblr. I love it so much. And, I love that I get to work here and engage with these communities and fandoms all the time. And I also love, how supportive Tumblr users are of fandoms that they know nothing about.
Yes.
I'm just like, oh, cool. I don't know what that is, but I'm happy for you.
Yes. It's so nice. And sometimes people, I think, just participate in a trending topic to participate and to help it trend even more. And like, there's such a nice sense of community in that. And yeah, it's just great.
Tell
us who your favorite Tumblr sexy man is, please.
We would love to know.
We should run one of our own. I
was actually going to say we should definitely do a sexy man poll, even though obviously sexymanotd.tumblr.com is crushing it. We'll do like a smaller sample size, maybe with the ones you quiz me with today.
Oh, yeah, that could be fun. Well, while we're all in our feels about Tumblr, I figure we might as well just move right along to our feels corner. So other than Tumblr, Cherokee, what has you in your feels right now?
Other than Tumblr, gosh, I mean, how is there any space for anything else? Well, obviously, okay, so I'm going to start with something that, well, I feel like The Last of Us is a big one, but I kind of want to like dive into that and really talk about it. So the other show that really has me in my feels right now is Poker Face.
Yes.
So Poker Face is a new Peacock detective kind of mystery anthology series starring Natasha Lyonne as a person who knows when someone is lying. And, you know, I don't want to give away any more than that for those who haven't seen it, but it is so beautifully shot. It's very like art noir kind of Western shot. I mean, it's Rian Johnson, so that kind of aesthetic that you're used to. And it's just, there's a new episode. I can't wait to watch it. I just love Natasha Lyonne, everything she does. I mean, Russian Doll is one of my favorite shows. And as I was watching this show, I thought to myself, you know, I think this is going to go for a ton of seasons. I could see this going like, you know, CSI or SVU or these other titles that can kind of have like a new topic every episode. So yeah, I'm excited to have a new favorite show that hopefully will be on the air for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best feeling.
And then also The Last of Us. When this episode airs, we'll be on episode 4. I'm excited to see it, but
that's true.
For the purposes of this, The Last of Us episode 3, I genuinely think is one of the most beautiful episodes of television I've ever seen. Just breathtaking. Like, oh my gosh. It was just, I loved it. Every second of it. I will definitely watch it again. I cried. It was so beautiful.
So much.
What are your thoughts on that episode, Lauren, as someone who's played through the game? Because I know that the plot of that episode was like somewhat of like kind of a not a small aspect of the game, but wasn't built out as much as this episode.
It wasn't. I mean, without spoiling like too much about either the game or the show, I will say that when I initially saw the cast for The Last of Us and they had cast Murray Bartlett as Frank, I was like, they cast somebody as Frank. That is interesting. This is going to be different than what the game is.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a little bit of a spoiler, you know, there's some pieces to put together there. But I can't remember the last time I just I'm genuinely like about to cry just talking about it. Like the last time that a bunch of shows have made me sob in the last year. Mm-hmm. Station 11, sobbed like a baby. Yep. Midnight Club, just like
inconsolable,
puffy face, red eyes. And I mean the last episode of Historic Materials, which like I can't even bear to think about.
It doesn't exist actually to me. It ends about halfway through, in my opinion.
Exactly, when everything's okay. But this was so interesting because it's like I wasn't like sobbing. I was just like quietly crying for 30 minutes straight.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know how else to describe it. And I actually, I did on my personal Tumblr, the laurenshippen.tumblr.com, I did actually like write up a post that like already has over 1,000 notes, which is wild, kind of about how I felt the game, like the game narrative and the TV show narrative, kind of like shifted the purpose that Bill serves. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to necessarily like say more about that because I did tag that with all the Last of Us spoiler tags and stuff. So if you are curious, just go to my Tumblr and I'll make sure to reblog it on the Dashboard Diaries Tumblr and tag up for spoilers and everything. Because it obviously goes into like a lot around how both the show and the game deal with that character. Mm-hmm. But I loved it. Every change that the show has made to the game has been spectacular. And the moments in which they stay so loyal to the game, like after all of that crying, Ellie and Joel taking showers and getting into their game outfits, I was just like, I felt like I had been like punched in the solar plexus. Like I gasped. I was like, oh my God, it's them. Like they're wearing the clothes that they wear the whole game, right? Because video game characters are usually only in one outfit. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it's very iconic. And God, yeah. What did you think about the episode as somebody who hasn't played the game?
I mean, it's honestly, it's hard to find the words. I loved it so much. I'm also trying to talk about it without any spoilers, and that's a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of the episode, when kind of you don't really know exactly what's going to happen, and like Nick Offerman's character is alone at the time. When Frank came in, I like really want, God, I'm like, how do I talk about this without spoiling it? I'm like, maybe just have to say spoilers ahead and like,
spoilers, maybe like skip like a 30, 45 seconds, minute, maybe.
Yeah. But honestly, the moment that Ron Swanson, the moment that Nick Offerman's character, who, oh my gosh, it's Frank and
Bill.
So the moment that Bill served Frank dinner, I was like, gay, like, do it. And like, then he started playing piano, and I was like, it's gonna happen. Like, I literally cheered when they kissed.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, and then from there I was like, oh my, and then I immediately thought that, like, in my head, I thought of a meme, because clearly I'm chronically online. Meme from Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Stephanie Beatrice's character, whose name I have immediately forgotten, is holding a puppy. Rosa, thank you, is holding a puppy. And she said, I've only had this puppy for 10 seconds, but if anything happens to it, I will kill everyone in this room and then myself. I was like, I literally like saw that meme in my head. Like, I've only had Bill and Frank for 1 minute, but
Totally. And like, yeah, even as somebody who knew the context maybe of that relationship, obviously it's quite different from the game, but like the you still sort of know what that partnership actually is, even though it's a little bit more oblique in the game. Like I still, the moment when he was like, I know I don't seem like the type to, be serving fancy wine. And Frank was like, no, you seem like the type. I was like, oh my God. They know right away. And like, there's so much that I want to say about like how the representation of that relationship in this show and how that episode ends sort of made me feel feelings about certain other characters, but I actually cannot say anything more about that, even with a spoiler tag, because I would be spoiling something from the game for you. So I'm going to just keep quiet and we'll talk about it in a few weeks.
Well, can't wait to. But yeah, I was really happy with how the episode ended. It's so like beautiful and bittersweet, and just like that 50 minutes was, I mean, like art. Like, I think it like
no, truly.
It's
like it's going to sweep the
I was
Emmys.
just about to,
like it has
to. How incredible. And it also I just love how a game that has meant so much to so many people and means so much to so many people and has for, I think, been out 10 years, is it?
10 years, yeah.
For the past 10 years. Now, so many people who care about this game so deeply get to experience it in a new medium, and so many people who had never played it before, me included, get to discover this world too, and hopefully also will enter. Yes. It really makes me feel, once again, in my feels, warm and fuzzy. Art is amazing. I love the power it has to, connect us and make us feel so deeply. Like these Bill and Frank are part of like us now, and I think that's so special.
Yes. And as with every week, I am Lauren Shippen, and you can find me at theLaurenShippen.tumblr.com.
I'm Cherokee McAnelly, and you can find me at chero.tumblr.com. This has been Dashboard Diaries, and
may your anons always be loving,
your dash always refreshed,
your gifts always be loading,
and your ships always canon.
May the fix you're reading always be finished,
and the answers you seek always in the reblogs.
Thanks for scrolling with us.